All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for join in our very, very interesting discussion today, as we'll be talking franchising and everything franchising. I know that most of you who are here, you are somehow interested to be a franchise owner or to start your own franchise and become a franchisor. And you are at the right place because today we have Bathabile Moreki, who's an expert on the topic of franchising. If you need anything around franchising, she's really the go-to person that I know. So she's really been a very good friend in the industry and yeah, very, very highly regarded individual in her space. So Bathabile is the founder and CEO of the Perfume Co. Africa. And then she also ran an organization called Township Economic Transformation in franchise ecosystem. And then also, I don't know why she did this, but she left her lucrative public sector job to join the uncertainty of entrepreneurship. So I don't know why she did that, but she will explain to us as we move along. And then she was also appointed as part of the she was an NDP youth ambassador, and then she also managed to secure almost about 8 million rands in various business interests around franchising, and then she'll also share more around financing and capitalization as to how you can capitalize your franchise need. And then also academically, she holds BTech in business management, and then she also has honors in MDP. And then among other franchises that she owns, because she's not just talking about franchises as though she knows nothing, but she also owns some of them, which amongst them is Debonair's, Fisherways, and Steers, some of them that you might know. So I'm not going to go too much, but also at the end of the session, we'll be able to allow some of you to be able to ask questions to Bathabile. So this is a 1 hour discussion, and then at the end, we'll be having a Q&A. So please do unmute yourself to be able to speak. I don't know if you will want to also enable the video for us to see you, but if that is fine with you, then it's not a problem. So without any further ado, Bathabile, and I would just like to welcome you and thank you so much for honoring the invitation. I know that you are quite a busy person, and then yeah, this might have caught you at one of your busiest time, but thank you in any way that you have honored the invitation. And I would just like to throw it to you as you will be welcoming you, just to ask you that how did you get into franchising?
All right. No, thank you so much, Rapelang, and hi, everyone. So thank you for the invitation. You forgot to mention that the invitation came at a very short notice. But here I am. I still manage when it comes to franchising and entrepreneurship sharing. I really, really try by all means to avail myself. All right. So with me, with franchising, I started in 2013. So yeah, next year, I think we can call each other experts in the subject. I'll be celebrating 10 years journey, and it's been wonderful. I don't want to lie, it's hard. There's so many challenges, but it's a very nice industry. So for me, I was in corporate, I was in private, and I also joined the government sector. So I used to have side hustles. So I realized that I wanted to take entrepreneurship full time. But to be honest, I needed to assess myself and understand what skills do I have to run a business full time. And I realized that I still lack some other skills for me to leave my permanent job and say, I'm going to start a business. So as I was trying to research and understand what business can I start, franchising came on the list, So the reason why I looked into franchising, I was interested to the mentorship that they offer, but they don't share it as mentorship. But the fact that there is a franchisor, a head office that guides you on your pricing, that guides you on a recipe of what you are selling, that looks into the standard, because remember, I'm using their brand. So for me, I saw that as a mentorship to say, okay, which means there will be somebody walking the journey with me. And indeed, they've done that. I'm with one of the big brands, and to be honest, as much as sometimes with big companies, there's too many bureaucracy, I felt from day one their support and their systems, so I'm not here to promote them, I'm not here to represent them, but I'm sharing so that at least the guest can just have an idea. So I'm with the famous brand. They are the owners of your Wimpy, Mac and Beans, Steers, Fisherways, Debonairs Pizza, Tasha's, and the others. So I own 3 brands. So I started with one brand, which was Debonairs Pizza. So I didn't know anything about pizza. 2013, guys, I still didn't eat pizza, like literally, I didn't eat pizza. I don't like cheese. I don't like dairy products. And coming from the rural areas of Kwakwa, we never had pizza establishment back then. So I was not really familiar with this pizza business or the product itself. But I saw the business concept and I loved it. The fact that they had free delivery also added for me. So when I approached the franchisor, it was really not the fact that I knew anything about saying I wanted to own a franchise. That's why they will say business is not only about being innovative. Sometimes it's about an opportunity, and you don't have to know something for you to run that business. As long as you can be coachable, you can be teachable, you can do anything. So for me, I was just driving around, and by the shopping center, Olivenwood Bosch, there was a new center that was going to be built. Then I met an estate king, the people that are selling the spaces, the landlord's representative. They were putting a board literally. Then I stopped. I asked to say, what are you going to build here? They said, we are building a new shopping center, it's going to have ShopRite. Back then, fish and chips was the popular brand for 500,000. And I said, you know what? I think I want to own a fish and chips because I had the desire to own a business. And I realized if I can have a franchise, I will be able to at least earn an income, because remember, coming from corporate, I also needed a business that can assist me to at least pay me a salary. Then the lady said, no, fish and chips, somebody has already applied. Once we start building, we have about 50% occupancy. And then she just lightly said to me, why don't you put a pizza business? We want a pizza tenant. Then Debonairs Pizza, that's how I now connected with Debonairs Pizza. I came back to Google and I just researched pizza businesses. I didn't know much brands other than Romans. I was not really familiar with Debonairs Pizza. Then when I was researching, then I realized to say, oh, there's Pizza Hut and other small brands. But for me, Debonairs Pizza stood out because of the delivery service that the business was offering to the customers. So I knew that I wanted to be in the township, and I felt that after hours, some people don't have cars. Who wants to buy pizza? So the delivery service might be what makes me stand out of the competitors, because in each and every mall, definitely there's KFC and other food establishments.
Oh, nice one. So now some of the people that are here, some of them are working, some of them, they are professionals, they've got various careers. So is it possible for one to start a franchise business while they're working? I'm asking in terms of the commitment that is required to run a franchise business. What does it take? And what did it take you to commit to be able to sustain those businesses over the years?
All right. So to be honest, I think any business, even if it's not franchise, you can start any business, even if you're still in corporate. As I said, I was in corporate and I didn't leave my job immediately. I started running the business 2013. I only resigned in 2015 when I was expanding to the other 3 brands that I'm owning. So, but lately, the brands are shying away from people who are working, merely being sometimes to be disciplined as a person, to commit the time into your business, it becomes a challenge. And our small businesses, because even the franchise, they are still owner managed. So as much as you've got a manager, you need you as the owner to be present. You don't physically have to be there 24/7, but you need to be involved in your business. So lately, other brands, they shy away. They've got now a clause to say you must be owner manager, but you can still apply even if you are still working. So for me, I will say, you need to understand that any business needs commitment, and it's not once off when you feel like, once you open up a business, it's like having kids. You cannot have 3 kids and feel like now the smaller one is getting attention and the 6-year-old or the 10-year-old doesn't get attention in the house. You need to repeat the same routine every day. With your full-time job, you know your contract. You are working 9 to 5. Then it's either in the morning before you go to work, you need to now do your admin for your business, because you cannot do your admin once a week. Because in retail, the main thing is about consistency. There's so many admin that gets involved into the business. We order stock almost every 2 days. You need to reconcile cash ups, so those things are daily managed. So even if you've got a manager, you need to double check. You need to check your customer complaints. You need to also check your customers. You need to do marketing for your business. So for me, I will say in the morning, I've even saw a case study by one lady who started a PR company. Her name is Kekana, She said an article where she said she used to start at 6 with her company. She'll wake up at 4, bath. Then at 6, she starts with a PR company. She does articles, she sends emails. Then at 8, she drives out, she goes to her 9 to 5 job. After 5, she now continues with her side hustle. She did that for 3 years up until she now established a PR company. She employs 12 people now. She's doing well. She was in London last week sharing a paper on PR. She was presenting last week in Cape Town. So any business, you can start it part-time while you still have your full-time job. So in retail, the tricky part is that weekends is also our working hours. And we know most professional weekends, we are used to relaxing with family and friends. So for me, I saw it practical. I thought the brands were joking when they said, you're not gonna have your family time and your social time. And once you get started, it happened. I missed a lot of weddings for my family. I missed a lot of funerals. I missed so many things because my work needed me to be there. Weekends is busy in the fast food industry. So you can imagine your team needs you to be there as support. You need to be there to interact with your customers, because as a small business, especially in the food industry, it's hospitality. So it's very personal. People buy you as the owner before they buy into your business, So the more you know your customers, because remember, those people, they're the one that buys from your business every week. We can just make a rough confirmation now. Who buys takeaway for their kids every Friday? Can somebody just raise up their hands? If you, every Friday, you are a mommy and you're like, you know what, I don't cook on Friday. My kids knows that I buy takeaways. Who in this? I'm one of them. Fridays, I don't really cook. Before I even own a franchise. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate. Fridays, people are buying takeaways. Wednesday, people have this thing that we are taking it easy. So you need to be part of that community. You need to know the schools. You need to know the police stations. They need to know you as a person who's the owner. That's where you can see the returns of your business growth. Even the franchisor, when they take you through training, they share those skills to say, in your business, you need to be present. You are a small business. You are not a corporate. So you need to understand that the simple fundamental steps, you cannot miss them if you want to grow your business. So you need to be available, go to schools, share about your business. If you can be involved in their sports days, commit your time. So now you need to understand that sometimes weekend will require you to be present in your business, even after hours. Like we knock off at 9. So it's not like at 4, you're gonna go home. We do cash up at night, and during the weekends it's too busy. So that's why cash up doesn't balance, because there's too many transactions that took place. There were refunds, there were cancellations. So now the team needs you as the most senior person in the business to kind of give them the support and also understand your business, because once you are not there, that's where a lot of discrepancies happens. That's where a lot of theft and shrinkages also happen. So you need to be there to be present to avoid such.
Yeah, so now how do you look for these franchises? I think everyone who's here might be thinking, I want to own a garage because I hear they're making a lot of money. I want to own a food outlet. I want to own something that I've heard that it makes a lot of money. So how does one identify which franchise to get into, and where do they find them? Where do you go to say, now I'm ready to start? What's the next step, and where does one find them?
Okay, so I think for the franchises, it's not really a complicated business. Google, to be honest, shares a lot. I know sometimes to get the contact of where do I get application, it's a bit tricky. I've tried with other brands like Chicken Licken. You know, when you just email the info there on the website, they take forever to reply. And I'm not just bad mouthing. Even for famous brands, sometimes when people just go to the internet, it takes longer. So for me, I would say, yes, rely on Google as your start, but also make extra efforts. You know, if you find their addresses, any business, they've got their physical address, walk into their business. They won't chase you away. Remember, they sell these businesses. So that's what I also did. I sent emails. They were not replying. I was calling. They were promising to call me back. And then one day I just found their address. I walked there and I realized they can't chase me. Remember, they sell these businesses. And I just went there to say, can I have more information? And I was attended better when I was there in person. You know, so if you can't find them online, visit their premises, attend the expo. Sometimes you find different banks, ABSA and FNB, they did a lot of franchising expo. So you can just Google and say franchising expo. It might give you past events. Then you can see the dates, get the contact details, subscribe so that when they've got future franchising exhibitions, you can network. And once you're on Google, you'll start seeing the bank's information. You'll start seeing other bodies, you know, that are involved in the franchising, like the Franchise Association of South Africa. It's an NGO that looks after the franchising businesses, you know, just governing to ensure that both consumers, us as the franchisee and the franchisor, we are doing right for their businesses. So then you start seeing such, and then you can connect, check on their workshops. Even FASA host a lot of online workshop lately.
Oh, so now as you are talking about banks, where does one find the money, or how does one raise the money? Because I've seen that you say you've raised almost about 8 million rand within the journey of you studying all these franchises. So how does anyone here in the audience begin to prepare themselves financially to be able to acquire one? Where can they find the finances? And also, what are some of the conditions that you can share with them? I know that some of the franchise, they will stipulate that, no, we need your skin in the game as well. And at least you need to put up front your own 10 or 20%, just so that we are sure that you have skin in the game. So what are normally the conditions, and where do people really find all this money? Because some of them is 1 million rand, 4 million rand, 10 million rand. They can be quite a lot of money. So where does one find all this money?
All right. So I always share with some of the people that I mentor or give consultation, guys, you know, franchising is one of the easiest business to find funding, and I'm not kidding, man. I even I have a book titled How I Started My Business with 1 million rand from the bank. So I share my journey, how I did my application, what was the requirement. So the book is available. You can check it, CNA, bargaining books, or exclusive books. So all the banks, if you go to all the banks, there's a franchising section, like how we apply for housing bond and car financing. So all the banks, they've got franchising funding. Then you also get some government entities like your National Empowerment Fund, which is one of the institutions that once funded me, and also the CIFA, Small Finance Enterprise. You know, so there's a lot of funding for franchising because it's a trial and tested model. There's a lower risk, well-known brands, etc. So true, most of them, if not all, they want a certain percentage. I know some of the big garages, they want 20%, but 20% of 6 million, it's 1.8 or 2 million, you know. So it's quite a huge amount of money. Then with the Debonairs brands, the famous brands, they want 50%. So majority are now looking at 50%. The reason why they put 50% before I answer where you can get, the reason being they want 50%, remember why we are saying it's a trial and tested model and the risk is lower. So they've worked this model. They understand businesses that the main thing that makes businesses to fail, it's cash flow. If you don't have enough stock, you are owing your rental, then you can't buy uniform, you can't do marketing, business tend to fail. So they put that rule so that they can give you the success that they've promised you, to say, if you invest in our business, these are the return on investment. So they're trying to make your repayment to the bank loan to be lesser. When the repayment is lesser, your cash flow becomes healthier. You as the owner, you're also now allowed, and your business allows you to withdraw salary. So that's the whole point of why they want 50%. It's not as if they're trying to discriminate. That's why they will even advise you to say, look into a brand that you can afford, you know, in terms of doing 50%. And these days, there's a whole lot of ways that we can do it. We can do it with Stockfell. There can be 4 people here. You don't have to know each other to start businesses, and you can still be successful. You can take your savings, you can sell one of your assets. Some of us incorporate, we've paid off our cars. And if you want to start a business, we need to understand that starting a business requires you to also invest into that business. So the banks, that's what the rules are. They are there to help us as entrepreneurs to be more successful. And for me, if you look into applications of those financiers, you will even see they will require you to do a cash flow, which in most small businesses, we skip the stage of running your cash flow for the 5 years to understand what requirements of your business in terms of how much it will need for your business to run, and also the return on investment. Any money that you're gonna put in that business, you need to see the return of investment before you even take the decisions. So when you wanna apply, you need to at least have a pre-approval from the brand before you approach the financier, because the financier needs to see your terms and conditions. Sometimes you can be able to negotiate, you know, so if maybe you've negotiated, so they need to see the terms and condition of your contract so that they're able now to offer you a funding. So the first thing, you need to approach the brand, then get pre-approval. You don't have to have the money upfront to get pre-approval. Then the pre-approval will come with terms to say within this time period, you need to have secured this much. Then after that, you can take that to the bank to try to source funding. Rapelang, I think there's a background noise. If you can just mute it. Ne?
Yeah, there's someone, I think, I don't know if there's anyone with a mic that is open. Can you please just guys check your mics if it's mute? Because there's a background. I thought it was actually.
Okay, now I've muted you. Gave me the. Oh, what happened now? What happened now? I tried to mute, but now I can't see my screen. Sorry, guys, I'll be okay. Yeah, so I tried to mute. Yeah. So now after that, you will take that that offer from the brand to your bank or to government institution. So my advice is that even if you don't have the required deposit, don't be discouraged. Look into your means. You know, you've got family and friends that might not know of this opportunity on the return on investments, to say if they invest this much, how much they can get in return. So speak to your friends, speak to your family members. People now, we are now used to clubbing together, doing stock sales, months, December, we share. There's a stock sale that is doing rounds now, Penny Save. They saved 4.9 million. They're gonna share now in December. What are the people gonna do with that money? Some are gonna pay school fees, but some of them, maybe if you approach, you know, and say, let's do the same club as friends or family, now you will be able to raise that deposit. If you don't wanna go into partnership, look into, especially when you are working, how can you raise this capital? You know, you can sell your car. Guys, I'll share my story. I sold my house. I had a beautiful house. I was working for government. I had a house in Waterkloof. You know, it was such a bargain, brand new units. I sold it. And to be honest, Linda, I took a risk. You know, business, we learn from other successful entrepreneurs. Everybody tell us they took a risk to start something. So if you really want to start something, it's all about also taking those risks, because if you don't take the risk, you might miss an opportunity. If I didn't start with one franchise, I will not own 3 franchises that are owned 2 years later. You know, and through that journey, I managed now to earn a salary. I managed to buy another house. I've started a lot of other businesses, you know, because now I had time to multitask, to do other businesses. I gained more experience. I gained more contacts, which I could not have gained if I was still in corporates, because of the rules of corporates to say we cannot have businesses once we're in corporates. So sometimes it's all about at least also starting, doing that little sacrifice, you know, And if it doesn't work out, we all go back to our work. At least as professionals, we've got our degrees and our experience. We can still be employed.
Oh, I was not.
Rapelang, you are muted.
Okay, is that question again? So now that you said it's a watertight model and also tried and tested, low risk and all of that. But where are some of the red flags? Because some of the people have bought into franchises and then maybe they dealt with some rogue, franchisor who did not maybe disclose certain things, or maybe they bought into a franchise that they didn't investigate why was it being sold in the first place. And then some of them, they buy franchises and then you find that maybe a few months down the line is not doing well, has to be shut down. So what are some of the risks that are there and some of the red flags that you can warn people against to say that they must be careful of? Because obviously it cannot be zero risk-free. There should be some level of risk that they should be careful about. So what can you warn our audience about in terms of some of the red flags that are there in the franchise?
So in any business, even if you are selling Archer, there are risks. You can buy a 25-liter Archer, there might not be customer buying. It's summer, it might go off. So any business, there are risks, even in franchising. And it's not even about the money that you've paid that there are, risk. But in any business, we just need to understand that there are risks involved. And for me, that's why when I loved the franchising, it's the first step that they formalize their business. They even said, if you've got a good brand, or you go to FASA and look into the requirements of a franchisor. The franchisor must require a business plan from you. It's not like a franchise just because it's KFC, it's a well-known brand, you just go and pay and you walk out and then you've got a business. You still need to do your due diligence. So the big brands, or let's say a good brand, will still request a business plan from you. So a business plan, it takes those risks so that you can at least understand, because the risk is not only about the brand, but the risk can be about the location. It can be about the resources, your capacity, So there's so many things that contribute to the risk factor. So once you start with your business plan, then you will realize, you need to interview. It's either other businesses or you need to go there and physically sit, like how the mystery shoppers do. The big retails, they've got mystery shoppers. Mystery shoppers go to a competitor, they sit there, they want to see their studies, or market research companies. So especially if you're from corporate, apply your corporate knowledge into your business. So you shouldn't invest anything before you do your own due diligence. And the nice thing why I advocate for using funding for a business. For me, once you have a bank as your funder, they are now your partner. They are your auditor, your police, they know a lot about these brands because they've got clients internal who are with this brand, So for example, when I started with my franchise, on the business plan, we didn't include generator. It was back then, 2013, when load shedding was starting. It was not hectic. But immediately after I've opened, there was load shedding now. We are seeing it on the news, 4 hours, load shedding was really starting. So already the bank asked, it's just that, as a person, you are trying to save cost. I didn't buy the generator immediately, so they knew because they work with other brands and they've seen, even if it's not load shedding, if it's a cable theft in the area, your business will be affected. So those are the questions that through the process that the bank, because they've got experts, they've got resources, also helps, So if you're not using the bank, you are using your own money. Please also visit the banks, because remember, you're going to bank with those banks. Even if, let's say, you are still banking with Capitec, they don't have a capacity of franchising. Go to FNB, tell them you are planning to open a franchise, you want to have information, because they want to keep you as their client. They'll be so much happy to share. They will even link you up with other Dibonese owners, in their database. That's how, so research as an entrepreneur is very important. Don't let it be about that brand just because we see it on TV, it's a big brand, and you take it as it is. Do your own research research, at least try 3 institutions that can at least assist you. The financiers will help you better. Walking into any of the businesses, 2 or 3 of the same brands that you want to own. Let's say you want to own a filling station. Visit the Shell, visit the Caltex, speak to the managers, because remember, the managers run the business 24/7. The managers are even more involved than the owner. If you can't get hold of the owner, speak to the managers. They know the shifts. They know what risks are there. If maybe there's too much theft, if there's too many robberies in this industry, they will share. So it's all about going out and not only relying on the internet or the brand or TV, just because now it's a popular brand and you go and invest. And also request for their financials. So if you are investing in a certain brand, they need to disclose some of the financials to you. So request that, meet up with an accountant if maybe you're not familiar with finance, and then an accountant can at least help you to make sense of those figures. And then from there, you can now draw your own conclusion of the capacity of risk. But even if everything looks perfect as you are about to start, always bear in mind, any business, there is a risk. So you need to be proactive, build communities, meet with other franchisees, attend trainings from the franchisor, ask questions, where you don't understand, so that the more you engage, the more you get clarity.
Yeah, so now in terms of the setup cost, I know that there are also where they will say a franchise is R1 million, but only to find that there are other additional costs that you need to budget for that you may not consider. So what is the cost structure when one is considering a franchise? Because, some people got into franchising because they saw that, okay, this franchise, maybe it's a McDonald's, they say it's R4 million, and then, they don't know that there are also some setup costs that are involved. So how do they work the setup costs and all the other additional costs that you need to pay? And what is the actual cost structure? When they say if a franchise is 4 million, how much must you be prepared to spend until the time that the franchise is ready to open for customers?
Okay, so most of the franchise, as they advertise, they will say a franchise, it's 4 million rand, and I'm glad you are aware of such. So it's like when you buy a house, you buy a house and they will say the bond is 2 million, then there's a levy, it's 400 and something, water is 600, then you buy. Once you start staying in the house, then the lights, globes goes off, the garden must be maintained, So we just need to understand that in business, there will be that extra cost. Even after you bought a house, sometimes you need a shelter and air conditioning in that house, So as soon as you get into a discussion or a contract, they need to give you a quotation. You cannot start anything without a quotation, even when you buy a car. Remember, you get that itemized billing, even a simple amount of 100 rand for registration of 1,000 for a contract. They detail everything. So with the franchisor, they will need to give you that breakdown cost. Then you will see other costs. It will say it's your own cost because they are not involved. Then they will say rental with the landlord. You need to go to the landlord and find out how much is their rental, their deposit, municipality wages. So you also need to get another quotation from the landlord. Then you will see other items that they will just include. So once you do your research, if you go to other businesses, you'll start realizing there are other KFCs with a TV, there are other KFCs without a TV. So those costs is now per owner's discretion. There are other franchises with air conditions. There are other franchises without air conditions. So now as the owner, it's all about what you can afford, what you can decide, So in any business, there'll be other running costs. So they will tell you, budget at least 3 months of stock. Then they give you a budget to say a stock is 60,000. So you shouldn't only rely off 1 month stock. Anything can happen that month. Your generator can go off. You can't trade. Your stock goes off because there was a rain and your roofing was faulty. Now you are waiting for the insurance to claim. Your business must still run. So they will tell you, we give you a budget to say at least 3 months of stock. You need to put for contingency, TV, security, CCTV. So you'll find that if you sit down and do those costs, they will come up to about 200,000 difference generator. They don't force you to have a generator because it's not part of their business model. Their business model is for you to sell petrol or chicken or burger, you know, but other things, they will just give you a list. And if maybe you are with a franchisor that is still small, they're still also starting, they might refer you to say, you know what, if you go and check with other franchises, then you will, that's your research part. Then you will see in other franchises what they have. Other franchises now, due to lockdown, we started having deliveries. There were other franchises like your Roman's Pizza. They never used to deliver. But after the lockdown, they started having bikes to deliver. So if you are the owner, you will need to now fund such things. So there will always be a budget and guidelines for you, you know, so that you can understand. So most of the people that normally say there is or what, sometimes it's, to be honest, as people, we know in entrepreneurship, sometimes entrepreneurs, we take what we want to hear and we believe what we want to hear because you are looking at your budget and you're like, no, I can't buy this aircon. Now you're realizing that your business is suffering because people in summer, they don't want to sit in a restaurant that doesn't have an aircon, you know. So now you start losing business. And sometimes because we are not involved in the business, we don't attend trainings from the franchisor, you don't come to your business, you don't understand your business. That's where the dispute comes. So you'll find that, ask yourself, how come we see so many franchises opening every day, but once there's this factory of one franchisor, then it will be a big deal because of now the franchisor is detailing the bad side of the franchise. Any business has the bad side, you know. So it's about you as an individual to say, how did you understand your contract? If you were treated unfairly, take that franchisor to court. That's how now even the FASA comes to play. They are there to assist both parties, you know. If you are not treated fairly, contact the Consumer Council. So there's so many avenues that we can explore. And it's not like I'm sharing this, I'm 100% happy with my franchisor. We fight, we have our own disagreements. I also breach the contract. They sometimes breach my contract, you know, but it's all about you because once you are together and you have taken this brand, all of you are now partners. So the dispute will always be there like any other business. It's not like it's only with the franchise where there's risk or, you know, the dispute of the undisclosed cost and so forth.
Yeah, so now that we have explored how do you buy a franchise and become a franchisee, so now how does one become a franchisor? Now you want to set up a business as an entrepreneur, you realize that there's a potential to scale, and then you can scale it into a franchisable model so that you can be able to expand and grow your business. So how does one set up the franchise such that the business is franchised? I think you are also working on the Perfume Co Africa to franchise, or you have already franchised the business. So what is your advice on the businesses that are here, entrepreneurs that are here, who are looking into scale their businesses into franchisable models?
All right. So yes, I'm running the Perfume Co Africa. It's a franchise model. So for me, it's definitely about scaling up so that you can have other entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs coming into your brand. So there's a checklist that it was designed by the Franchise Association of South Africa, but you can also look into the other franchises that have already set up just to, you know, to benchmark, you know. So you need to have a brand and it needs to be visible. So there should be an evidence to say your brand is visible, is known, before you can now sell it to other people, because the big thing that makes a franchise work is the brand. So you need to have invested into the brand. And there are some requirements, you know, you should be able to supply stock to your those entrepreneurs or partners and so forth. So there is a checklist, and there are lawyers who works with drafting the franchise agreements, because the franchise agreements details how the business run from the franchisor point and from the franchisee, both expectations, you know, and how much is the return on investment, where you also need to work on your financials. When people come in and invest, they need to at least have a guidance. It's not a guarantee to say, if you invest this much, automatically you will get this. Any business is not about fagi mali uzobona. There should be work that even the entrepreneur and the brand, both of you need within reasonable means to at least input so that you can also get those return on your investment, which has been shared. So you need to be trading as a brand for at least 6 months, because they need to benchmark with your own financials. You cannot tell the people that you can sell 7 burgers, but you as the brand, you couldn't even sell 7 burgers, you know. So there are those guidelines that there are lawyers. You can even approach the Franchise Association of South Africa for some guidelines on consultant to help you to franchise. So I've done my one. It's been now a year on the franchising model. So it's an ongoing business model. You cannot say this is perfect. You need to adapt. You need to make changes into the model so that eventually then it's a fine-tuned model. But if you go to the banks, you'll find that they also need some requirement so that they are able to fund your franchisees. So the banks will also have some requirement. So it's an ongoing process that even after you've been approved, they need to assess you every year to say, are you still upholding the support that you promised your franchisees? Because as the brand, you need to give your franchisees that support so that they can be successful. The whole model is not about just selling the name, but there should be support in place to assist your franchisees to grow.
Okay, just the last question before I allow the audience to also ask some questions. So on the stock fails that already happened, you did mention it earlier on, that how can a stock fail arrangement, and I'm saying this because there are some of my family members that I know that we are trying to build up a stock fail so that at a later stage you can be able to buy franchises and participate into various business interests. So how can people group themselves into stock fails, or if they are already existing as stock fails, to be able to then invest into franchises and be able to get franchise as a stock fail?
I will say look into a stock fail consultant. The banks also have that formalizing of stock fail, but I also know a consultant that I've worked with, she also has a book called Stock Fails. She's a stock fail expert. So she will help the stock fail to set up so that compliance side, they know what the requirements to comply, register on their compliance, you know, and set them up. Because remember, once you are a stock fail, as much as you are friends or families, if you want a successful stock fail, there must be a governing rules and regulations governing your stock fail. So I will say, for me, I don't deal with stock fails. What we do, once you are a stock fail and then you want to explore into the franchising, then I will guide you to say which brand do you want, what is the requirement, and then you can be able, you know. But in terms of formalizing your stock fail, the collections of the money, who keeps the money, the return from the bank's side, then you should maybe consult with the bank. They've got the stock fail units. Then, or you can reach out to Palesa Lungolo. She's very active on different social media platforms, Facebook and also Instagram.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, I think we can allow for questions if there are any questions from our audience. There was one from Jonas Selukela, who wanted to know about what is the name of the book again and where they can find it. I think while I was crisscrossing the mall one day, I walked into a exclusive books, and right on the business side, then I saw your face there. Then I gravitated towards the book, and I realized that, oh, so Bathabile is very, very well published and well distributed in all these exclusive stores. So yeah, maybe you can just add on that about the book.
Yeah. So the book is called How I Started My Business with 1 million rand from the bank. So I'm sharing my journey with the National Empowerment Fund. I didn't write the book on their behalf. I was just sharing with other entrepreneurs because I get a lot of questions to say, how did you get funding? So I shared how I got funding, how I sold my house, so that you can at least have the practical side of how you can also do it. And it's a self-help desk like book where it also has some formulas from the banks on how to apply for the funding. There's, I think, CIFA application form where you can just do it on your own. Just, if let's say you're inspired to own a garage, I want to challenge you here. Go out this weekend, go out next week, find time. Go and speak to the managers of those establishments, build relationship with those managers, get the insight. I've got a manager that I work with, Hazel. I met Hazel in 2011 when I was researching for my own debonaires, where I used to work in government in Hamilton, in Pretoria. Then I used to go to their debonair store. So I will ask her, when do they close? How many units do they sell? How many employees? Then I realized she knows so much about the business. And I've came to understand that managers know so much because of the responsibilities that the owners, we give them to run our business. They are there more than us. They even know some part of the business more than we know. We get some education from them. So if you want to own any franchise business, please visit that franchise that you want to own. Just do your own research, get inspiration, ask questions.
All right, I think we have a question from Motau Maloma. You can unmute yourself, Motau.
Thanks, Rapelang, and thanks for our guest speaker. I think this is very insightful conversation. Yeah, I just want to check. There's a growing concern on the costs of sustaining a franchise. And I'm talking your monthly fees, administration, and all that, and some restrictions, particularly from a transformation perspective. I'm a transformation activist, and some of the conversation we get from entrepreneurs is that you are not able to buy from your, let me talk about rural businesses. If I'm set up in a mall closer to, or in a rural area, am I able to buy potatoes for my chips in a cooperative that is selling, because there's some restrictives or standards that your franchisor will require you to have, and how flexible are these franchise opportunities in that respect? Are we able to advance transformation at the same time in that space?
All right. Thanks. All right. No, thank you so much for the question. No, very true. To be honest, in the franchising space, is still a very closed sector, if I can put it in that way. That's why my company is titled Franchise Transformation, Township Economic Transformation in Franchising. So reason being, that's why I host these talks. I'm trying to educate, other African entrepreneurs about the space and also make you aware. And because remember, the lesser we are involved in that space, the lesser we could do the change. So unfortunately, currently, as we know, most of the franchises are still owned by non-Africans communities, and not in a bad way. I'm not here now to do the movement to say no, it's wrong. They chose that space, they went into it. So as Black people, unfortunately, we cannot be sitting discussing on Zoom how they are not allowing us to do this and that, whereas we are not involved, because change can only happen once you are involved, once you are part of the system. So we can be part of the system in different ways. If you go to buy at KFC, who else has asked a question to say, when are you going to start buying from small companies? So once we start being active in different ways, we don't even have to own the franchises, but we can be active in different ways, to be asking those questions, to be writing to those establishments and finding out to say, when are you going to do this change? We are not saying they must change everything over one night. The reason being why is still a closed supply process. For example, if a KFC buys potatoes, they buy potato from one supplier. For example, I'm just making an example. So let's say they're buying their chicken. They buy the chicken from one supplier. If you look into our communities, there is no community that has enough supply to service all KFC. Because remember, you are now in Kanduli, there's KFC in Kanduli. If there's somebody selling chickens, those chickens cannot service the whole of South African KFC. Maybe they've got over 800 stores. So that's how they explain to say it's difficult for them to have small supply because of consistency of the product. The same people that are calling up for consistency, they're the same people that tomorrow they will write about my franchise, how I didn't serve them a good product, because customers knows what they buy and customers feel consistency. Hence, their supply chain is centralized so that even if you are a Dibonese in some villages in Guagua and a Dibonese in Sentin, their products should be the same. So that has been the explanation. When I started, I used to ask those questions to say, but why must we buy cleaning materials from these big cleaning companies? They explained to us to say those big companies, their cleaning materials are safe for food. They've got all the tests, they've got all the certificates, you know. So now we buy. I was given a breach letter. I breached my contract. I bought some cleaning materials from one of the suppliers from my social media. They manufacture cleaning detergents. They're a good brand, but unfortunately, their brand has not been tested to see if there's food safety. So if I had a customer complaint who got sick when I was using those non-approved standards, then I will have now been in more trouble. The brand could have been sued because of my negligence, because customers can sue and say they got sick from food poisoning. And if inspector came, then they're gonna see my cleaning materials that are not tested. They were gonna sue me because at the end of the day, I signed a contract with the brand. This brand also signed a contract with other departments to say they will uphold the standard to ensure that the mass catering they offer. So it's a bit complex looking at it from the one side of the consumers or the small business. You know, we need to look at them into different ways. So unfortunately, up until where we start having those conversations, even from the point of being a customer, you don't have to own any of the brands to start making change. But we don't have that much support, even from the consumers. The consumers wants to get into a well-known brand, buy. Imagine if Shell had to sell you a petrol that is now from a small supplier. Let's be honest. You know, where you gonna be happy with your BMW, somebody putting a petrol that Shell head office didn't approve? So I think the franchising business, it kind of comes home because it's owned by individuals. It's not head office stores. So any decisions that you do, you don't only look into empowering somebody. You are also looking into your consumers to say, will your consumer be happy? Will they pay the amount that you are charging if they are putting a petrol that is not Shell, like it's not used by other Shell brands, you know, like Shell stores. So those are the challenges that in the industry that we face, because this industry is not only the one-sided. There's so many stakeholders involved that you need to take into consideration. Nobody wants to buy a fancier chicken in Sentin, and then when you go to Limpopo, now Shishiro, it's a not so fancy chicken. We want the same chicken. As long as it's KFC, we want the same chicken.
All right, let's run through the rest of the questions quickly. There are messages here. Let's see, there is just a moment. Winnie Mokwena was saying, what are other requirements do they want besides money to get a franchise?
Okay, so the other requirements that you need to show is to show that you kind of have business experience, not big business. Even if you are selling Tupperware, it's a good case study for them because they believe that they are empowering an entrepreneur or aspiring to be entrepreneur. So they too don't want your money. You know, and then I saw that with my own franchise as well with the perfume. I had a lot of corporate people who never sold, who were just in corporate forever. They never had any business. And I thought they could learn, get inspired. And unfortunately, if you have not multitasked, having a business, having a 9-to-5 job, adjusting, it takes long, So it didn't really work, even for my personal experience. People from corporate, because of the structure of corporate, you are given what to do, you are given targets, there's the system. But now, if you need to do the same system for your business, it takes too long. And in the small businesses, we see the effects in 2 days. You can see when the store is suffering. So now they want to see at least an entrepreneur skills in you. You don't have to be perfect. That's why they make a reference to say, as long as you can show us that you've sold something. And selling is not about only selling a product. Sell your savings, show something. So they take you through an interview. Same with the financier. They will call you for an interview. So you should at least show their interest in having a business. And if you've got an experience, it's a plus, and you need to be available. So there are doctors who used to own franchises. Most of them sold those franchises because doctors, they are needed in their practice. You cannot substitute a doctor with their patient. So you find that the doctors had access to capital. They could buy those franchises. They were not involved. Their businesses were not run properly because the managers that we also have, the team that we hire, unfortunately, once they see you not being involved, that's when now other inappropriate acts happens. That's where now your customer complaints will increase because the customers are not satisfied from just the cleanliness of your business, stock ordering, they will be playful, they don't order enough, they order late. So you'll find that in your business, there's so many problems. So the franchisor wants somebody who has at least an interest, who can be available, and they want to see in practical. That's why they even say you shouldn't apply for a business which you are 50 kilometers away, because they know that once you are 50 kilometers away, you won't be able to attend into your business. It's going to be too costly for you to drive to different provinces. You buy a business in Gauteng, but you've got a business in Nelspruit. How are you going to now go to Nelspruit and see your business? So they also need to advise you to say, find a space or location closer to where you stay so that you can be able to manage your business. So those are the three requirements that they look into.
I've got my friend Witimelo Musimani Baheta, who's a medical doctor, on the line. I don't know if she will take kindly to what you just said.
There is a report about franchising to say, I even had an interview with one dentist in Nelspruit. He owned a Nando's. She's like, Bathabile, I was buying stock, but I was not even seeing profits. My chickens were taken out from the shop. Especially with the fast food, guys. Fast food is a nightmare. You need to be there. Guys, fast food, you don't sleep, eh? You need to know your chickens. Your chickens will live in a bucket full of dirty water. They put it in a plastic. They put it in the dirty water. Somebody is mopping nicely. And then as if they go out to, throw out that water, the chicken is out of your shop. I've got stories for days, guys, if I can start with franchising.
All right, sorry, Dr. Witimelo, we didn't mean to pick up on doctors. Yeah, so as you're addressing that question for Winnie, she was actually saying, I once helped my sister to apply for engine garage. They gave us a math test. We never got the result, and they never got back to us. So, there's also a comment from Shadi who's saying that very informative, indeed. And then Nku is saying, how do we follow the presentation in terms of updates? So I will also post this video online, so you can also follow for some of the things that you have missed from there. But you can also contact me for anything that you need. And if you need anything from Bathabile as well, I will relate the message. So you can just contact me as well. So there's also a comment from Motau saying that perhaps we need to bring these small players into the bigger ecosystem through those approved standards. And then there's also, oh yeah, Dr. Witumelo is saying you guys want to stress me.
Yeah, so I think I just need to wrap up. So Renee, I've got another meeting. I see now it's about 3:05. So I also offer consultation as a group. I do classes as well, master classes once a month. And I also do one-on-one consultation online and on-site. You can come to my business in Midwend, and then I will share the details with Rapelang.
Okay. Yeah, I think because we are run out of time, yeah, we will just, I don't know if you are able to take one last question or you are pressed for time.
Okay. No, it's fine. I'll take that.
Okay. Is there any one last burning question that that is there before we close? Anyone with the last question? Otherwise, if there isn't any question, then we can close. I don't see any hand, but you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, so if you're still waiting for the question, I would just like to add, guys, as people in corporate, you have more access to capital. So I will encourage you to look into the franchising sector, because of the system in place. And while you're still trying to learn, that's going to start your own from scratch, and funding with the standalone businesses, it can be a challenging. So let's start this so that we can create jobs. We see that there's so many jobs that are needed. There's so many benefits, even for you, to start running a business.
All right, yeah, I think we're gonna call it off at that. Thank you so much, Bathabile. And then, yeah, thank you so much for availing your time. And then, right. Yeah, if you have maybe got us in the middle of the conversation, I will upload the video. So just check the Rapelang Moreki YouTube page, and then you'll get the whole of the interview there. And then, yeah, thank you so much also, guys, for coming through. And we really appreciate your support as always to be a great audience. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.